What is going on, everybody? Tyler Brandt back here with another video. Hope you had a good weekend. Happy Monday. Now, before we get into today's video, I just wanted to give you a little bit of background and, paint a little picture for you. So basically, I had the opportunity to really talk to Matt O'Leary from MattOLearyNY here on YouTube. He is a blogger, he's a content creator, and here on YouTube, he's one of the leading Jet, voices on the platform. He does post-game and pre-game analysis. He does some news. He does, different opinion stuff. So he's one of, again, the premier YouTubers here in terms of Jet content on the channel. So he's doing a series about, previewing the rivalries in the AFC East. So he's doing a video with about the Buffalo Bills with a Buffalo Bills content creator, with a Miami Dolphins content creator. So I had the opportunity to be the Patriot guy here in that series. A very cool opportunity. So this video that you're about to see is basically that interview. We talk a lot about the Patriots. We talk a little bit about the Jets. And it's kind of just a candid look on New England football in 2020. If I were to bump into you on the street and we were to talk about the Patriots, this is probably what it would sound like. So it's a little bit different, but in the same way, it's very cool. I hope you enjoy it. So without any further ado, let's get into it. My conversation with Matt O'Leary from MattOLearyNY about the New York Jets and the New England Patriots.
I'd like to welcome on Tyler Brandt onto the channel. He has his own YouTube page where he does Patriots content. Tyler, how you doing today, my man?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Now, where can people find your stuff on social stuff?
All right, so on Twitter, I'm at the Tyler Brandt. On YouTube, you could type in the Tyler Brandt Patriots. I'm still new to the game, so I don't have a custom URL yet. I still got to work my way up. But I'm pretty much there. And then I started the Talking Pats Instagram. It's still new. I'm still trying to post on it more, but that's where I post most of my Patriot stuff.
Gotcha. Okay, awesome stuff. So we're going to jump right into this, Ty. I got to start here. Your thoughts when you found out the news about Tom Brady, and are the Patriots going to be okay?
Well, I mean, for me personally, I was in the mid-quarantine sleep till 12 days. So I woke up pretty late to the news, and it hurt. I'm not going to lie. I cried 2 or 3 times. And I was alone all day that day, so I was just in my feelings. It was a bad day. It was not a good day. But like a bad breakup, I feel like I've recovered and moved forward. I'm very confident about the New England Patriots this season. I know that it's crazy to say, like, oh, see you in Tampa for, the Super Bowl or whatever. So, but I'm confident with this team headed in, and I trust Bill Belichick and the staff he has there.
Absolutely. So they made some big news in signing Cam Newton, who was on the market for seemingly forever. What are your expectations for Cam going into this year?
It's anybody that follows me on Twitter or, is listening to anything I've done, they know that I'm not the biggest Cam Newton advocate. I think that, he's, as a passer, he's a little bit inconsistent. I know how much of an athlete he is and how much of a freak athlete he is, but he needs to, improve a little bit as a passer. But I think he brings an interesting dynamic that New England hasn't had in decades to this team. So I'm interested to see how Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels use somebody completely different and how they build an offense around somebody completely different.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely going to be interesting to see. And now you mentioned on the offensive side how things are going to look a little bit different. I want to ask you about different positional groups. Like, going into this year, what are some of the positional groups where you feel confident in?
I know on the offensive side of the ball, I'm very confident in the offensive line. I still think they have one of the elite offensive lines in the NFL, which is why I think they'll be in a lot of games this season. I'm the captain of the Pay Joe Tooney wave. I'm the captain of that ship. So I think he's great. I think Yodny Cajuste is a name to watch, actually, in a video that I just put up recently on the channel. Yodny Cajuste is a name. I think that'll slide into right tackle in place of Marcus Cannon. So I'm very confident with this young and new offensive line. Getting David Andrews back helps a lot too. And beyond that, I think the Lamar Miller signing this week makes that running back group interesting all of a sudden. And I'm very intrigued offensively by the wide receivers to see. It looks like Sanu, it looks like N'Keal Harry have put in a lot of work to make steps. Jules, he still was over 1,000 yards, but he had a lot of drops last season. I'm excited to see a healthy Julian Edelman. So offensively, I'm very intrigued by this team.
Okay, and on the defensive side, obviously, when you have someone like Stephon Gilmore, you got to be pretty confident in the cornerback groups. Is there any other positions on the defensive side of the ball where you're like relatively confident in?
The secondary, like you said, Gilmore and J.C. Jackson, I expect to emerge this year. The safeties, I think, will be fine. Even losing Pat Chung, which is kind of a defensive captain on the field, I still think they're very deep at the safety position. I am a little concerned with how they're going to generate a constant pass rush, especially losing Van Noy, rush the passer, Jamie Collins, rush the passer. Landon Roberts had some opportunities to rush the passer. So with all those guys gone, with no Hightower, who could rush the passer when they needed him to, I'm a little concerned, but they brought in guys, I think, specifically Josh Uche and Chase Winovich, who will take the next step in this defense to, I think, scheme ways for them to get to the passer. At least that's what I would think that the defense is going to focus on.
Absolutely. And how about some positional groups or some players maybe that you're looking at where you're maybe not so confident in?
As much we just talked about a little bit the linebackers, that's the one group. I think that, especially in college, a lot of these guys were good at rushing the passer, but there's a lot of question marks in pass coverage and how they're going to do a lot of stuff. There's a lot of new linebackers. So I think that's the group that I'm most concerned about coming into the season. And then even back on the offensive side, as confident as I am and as much work as the wide receiver group has put in, if there's as really just flat out bad as they were last season, especially with a tougher schedule, it's just going to be ugly. It really is.
Absolutely. I definitely look at those positions as well. Now, you didn't really mention as much. The tight end group is going to look a little bit different. Obviously, you didn't have Gronkowski last year, but he comes back and goes to Tampa Bay with Tom. What are your thoughts on that position?
I'm actually really excited to see Devin Asiasi was one of the tight ends they picked in the third round. I'm really excited to see him. I think he can come in. And I had another video on this. Not every tight end comes into the league and pops right away. I think that's probably one of the most complicated positions to go from college to the NFL. So I think he'll have some growing pains, but I'm excited to see him. And then I'm really intrigued by the other third-round pick they made, Dalton Keene. When I was watching film on him in Virginia, they used him as an H-back, as a fullback, as a tight end. They schemed a lot of ways to get him the ball and screen passes and stuff like that. So I think he's really the guy. I'm very intrigued to see what they can do with him in terms of scheming ways for him to get the ball in space, in terms of getting guys behind him so he can block. I think he's a very talented, multifaceted player.
Okay. And how about just like overall expectations for this season for the New England Patriots? When it's all said and done, what are you expecting in 2020?
So this one's tough. I go back and forth because I'm 27 years old. I've realistically, for most of my life, and it's very spoiled, but I've never seen an awful New England team as far as I can comprehend football. So maybe they are, when experts say 3-13, 4-12, maybe they are a awful team and I don't know what that looks like. But I truly think the secondary will keep them in games. I think the offensive line will keep them in games. I think if they don't turn the ball over, which is something that Belichick preaches, they'll be in a lot of games. And if it's one possession games late, I'll take Bill Belichick as a coach over a lot of other guys in the league. So I think that they'll be competitive in every single game. I think having a division that I think is still a year away from being a real tough division helps them a lot too. So I think that they'll be playing meaningful games in November, December.
Okay, absolutely. And I mean, I'm kind of right there in the same boat as you with Bill Belichick as the head coach. It's really hard for me not to sit here and say that they're going to be atop of the AFC East when it's all said and done, just because they haven't proved it yet. Until someone proves otherwise, I feel like personally that this has to be the Patriots division still.
I agree with you. And I know Buffalo has put together a really good team and I love Sean McDermott. I think he's a very good coach. But Josh Allen hasn't beaten New England yet. And, the same thing with the Jets. I mean, I think the Jets are finally doing the right thing, even though they're a couple years away. But until Sam Darnold beats New England, it's hard for me, or whoever the quarterback, and if Tua, comes in and beats New England, it's hard for me to just say New England's going to fall by the wayside until someone in the division steps up and proves it.
Absolutely. So you mentioned the Jets briefly there. I just want to get your take. You have the pulse on the Patriots nation. What do Patriots fans think about when they hear the New York Jets?
Now, there's no way to say this without sounding. I'm gonna like the last few years as a Patriot fan, the Jets have been laughable. I mean, there's just sitting on the hill looking down at everybody. But looking at it seriously, I just as a football fan, I love the Jamal Adams deal to get him out and just to stockpile a bunch of valuable picks. And I think that Joe Douglas is the guy that can actually do this the right way. You can tell by how he's drafted, but by drafting Mekhi Becton in the first round, just a guy that can be a career left tackle. I think the quarterback is right, even though he's had some growing pains and he's been surrounded by a terrible team. So I think they're finally doing the right thing. I just think this team has been bad for a long time, and it just doesn't get fixed in, a month, 2 months. It's a process.
Absolutely. You mentioned Darnold briefly. Are you a Darnold believer? Do you think he's the guy?
Yeah, I absolutely think he's the guy. I think he's very good. I think, again, he's been surrounded by really, really bad talent at every level for the most part. So I think that's been a big part of his growing pains. Like you say all the time, Matt, he's 23 years old. I mean, he's still got a lot of years. He hasn't even begun to enter the beginning of his prime yet when you really break it down. I know the Trevor Lawrence rumors have kind of run wild because of what they could be this season. And I always say in my mind, if the Jets were to do something that crazy and Sam were to fall by the wayside, I would take a flyer on 23-year-old Sam Darnold tomorrow. He would be Patriot tomorrow if he hit the market.
No, absolutely. And I just wanted to see any final thoughts on the Jets from looking as an outsider perspective, things you notice about this team.
I like Joe Douglas. I think he's in the right spot. And I kind of, in my mind, think of ways that the Jets could put together a competitive season. And maybe Le'Veon is, really takes a lot of steps forward, and I think he will. Maybe a guy like Denzel Mims bursts onto the scene and becomes a star right away. But the thing that I always think about, or that I come back to, is, and I was actually watching your live stream a couple days ago, and it's the Adam Gase thing. And I think even if he hits and he takes a step forward as a coach, he's still significantly worse than every coach in the division. And I even mean Brian Flores. Yep. So that's the thing. I, as a Patriot fan, can't take the Jets seriously. And this is harsh, but I really can't take them seriously with Adam Gase as their head coach.
No, I think that's completely fair. I really do. Last thing for me, I wanted to get how you think the AFC East is going to shape out. If you had to go from 1 to 4, who's finishing where, records, stuff like that.
All right, so I think, and I mean, it could be because I'm a Patriot fan and I could be way off the mark, but until Josh Allen proves it, I think the Patriots win this division. I think they're a 10-6 team, maybe 9-7 wins of the division this year. I think Buffalo's a game behind them at 9-7, maybe 10-6. The Patriots get in with a tiebreaker, something like that. I think they'll be very close. They actually play a Saturday game in December, a Saturday night game again, and I think that's going to probably be for the division. And then behind them, I'm very high on Miami. I think if Tua comes in and is very good right away, I think a lot of teams are going to realize how good that Miami roster is and that Brian Flores is a very good coach. So I think maybe for me, I'd have Miami third, say 6-10, 7-9 ceiling maybe. And then I like the Jets, but between Adam Gase not being there, C.J. Mosley, Jamal Adams now being gone, I think it's going to be another rough season, maybe 5-11, 6-10. That would probably be my AFC East, at least right now.
Okay, that's fair. I'm pretty close. I have the Patriots winning the division. Even without Tom Brady, I think this is an 11-win team. And then I would say the Bills are going to be next at either 9-7 or 10-6, a wild card spot kind of team. I flip-flop the Jets and the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are another year away. So I have the Jets 7-9 and the Dolphins 6-10 to round out the division.
That's fair. I think I'm in the minority with Miami, unless, I'm with the Miami fans. But I'm very high on Tua. And I think if he's healthy and they can get him in there early, I think he's got a shot. I think he's going to be something different for teams to have to defend. That's the only reason why I'm a little higher on him. But, I think you're right. You and me, we're pretty much in lockstep there.
Absolutely. So this is Tyler Brandt. You can check him out on YouTube at The Tyler Brandt and on social media at The Tyler Brandt. Tyler, just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on with me. It was a blast talking Patriots and Jets with you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you once again, Matt O'Leary, for allowing me to swing by your channel, talk a little bit about the Patriots, a little bit about the Jets, and I appreciate it. Again, if you haven't already, follow him on YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram, at MattOLearyNY on YouTube. He is one of the premier Jet voices, again, talking everything Jets news, Jets reactions, pre- and post-game, all that sorts of fun, good stuff. Remember, he's doing the previewing the AFC East series, so he's working with a Patriot content creator, and then there'll be series about the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. So if you want to keep a tab on the division and what's going on around the division, what the feelings are heading into the season, be sure to catch the rest of that series. Again, at MattO'LearyNY on YouTube. In terms of myself, once again, I'm sure you know it, but I am Tyler Brandt. Subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate every single one of you that have subscribed. I'll never stop saying that. I'm going to say it at the end of every single video. I appreciate all the love, all the support. Follow me on Twitter at @TheTylerBrandt, on Instagram at TalkingPats. We can chop it up about the Patriots, anything you want to talk about on there. And first and finally, I should say, let me leave you with a question. What did you think about the video? What did you think about the interview? What do you think about the Patriots headed into 2020? I know we've talked about it, but what do you think about the Jets headed into 2020 and beyond? We know they probably would not be competitive right away, but it seems like they're finally starting to do the right thing. So leave it down below. Let me know what you think about the New York Jets. But until next time, be safe, stay good. Be safe, be good. I'm Tyler Brandt, and I'll catch you on the next video.